morning guys, how are you today? I'm sure you are fine. Okay, we are from the first group to explain about the structure and function of the brain. Before it, we would like to introduce our group. The first is
Hello, my name is Aprilia Nanisi. You can call me Liana. I'm the first presenter.
And the second presenter is
Hi, my name is Gila Fusila. You can call me Gila Aja.
and the third presenter is
Okay, my name is Anita Tiana. You can call me Gita. I'm the presenter.
okay. The last presenter is okay. Before we do this video, and subscribe guys, subscribe. Okay guys, our topic today about structure and function of the brain. What will be explained by all presenter. The first is the structure of the brain, and the second is part of the brain and function in general, and the third is part of the brain and function in language. If you want to know the complete explanation, let's check it out.
Hello. Now I want to explain about structure of the brain. Structure of the brain. The first is cerebral cortex, the outermost layer of the cerebral hemisphere, which is composed of gray matter. And beneath the cerebral cortex is the cerebrum, which acts as the mind, thought, and control center of the brain. It is the set of high-level thought like emotion and decision making as opposite to lower-level thought like glance, movement, and reflexes. And in cerebral cortex, there are right hemisphere and left hemisphere. The left hemisphere is dominant with regard to language and logical processing, while the right hemisphere handles spatial perception. And in left hemisphere, there are Wernicke's area, Broca's area, and acute versicolus. And in cerebral cortex, there are angular gyrus and sylvian fissure. Gyrus is the bone's appearance on the surface of cortex, and fissures in an intended to demarcate one part of the brain. And the second is the corpus callosum. The two hemispheres communicate with one another through the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is a wide, fat bundle of neural fibers beneath the cortex that connect the left and right cerebral hemisphere and facilitates interhemispheric communication. And the brain is separated into four lobes. The first is the frontal, the second is temporal, the third is occipital, and the last is parietal lobe. The first is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is associated with executive function and motor performance. Executive function are some of the higher order cognitive process and human have. And then the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is associated with the retention of short and long-term memories. It processes sensory input including auditory information, language comprehension, and naming. It also creates emotional responses and controls biological drives such as aggression and sexuality. Okay, thank you.
And then the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe contains most the visual cortex, and it is visual processing center of the brain. Cells on the subside of the occipital lobe are arranged as a spatial map and the mesial field. The parental lobe. The parental lobe is a social with sensory skill. It intakes different types of sensory information and is particularly useful in signal processing and navigation. The parental lobe plays an important role in integrating sensory information from various parts of the body, understanding number and their relation, and manipulation object. It is also process information related to the sensor of touch. Limbic system. The limbic system is located just beneath the cerebellum on both sides of the thalamus. It is not only responsible for our emotional life, but also many mental functions such as learning and formation of memories. There are several important structures within the limbic system. The amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and gyrus. And all the components of the limbic system work together to regulate some of the brain's most important processes. Do you understand? And right now, I will explain about part of the brain and the function in general. The first, cerebral cortex, and the second, corpus callosum, and the third, frontal lobe, and the fourth, parietal lobe, and the fifth, occipital lobe, the sixth, temporal lobe, the seventh, limbic system, and the last, basal ganglia. Okay.
Okay, I will continue about part of the brain and function in language. The first is hemisphere. Hemisphere here is the vertebrate cerebellum is formed by two cerebral hemispheres that are separated by a groove, the medial longitudinal fissure, and in hemisphere here divided into two parts. There are left hemisphere and right hemisphere. For the first, left hemisphere responsible and sequential analysis as follows: systematic, logical, interpretation of information, and also interpretation and production of symbol information such as language, mathematics, abstraction, and reasoning. Memory stored in language format. Okay, the next is right hemisphere. Right hemisphere here has holistic functioning, processing multisensory input simultaneously to provide holistic picture of one's environment. Holistic has functions such as dancing and gymnastics are coordinated by right hemisphere. Memory is stored in auditory, visual, and spatial modalities. Thank you.
The second is gyrus and fissure. Gyrus is the bump appearance of the surface of cortex. It means that gyrus is the fault or curve that arises and visible on the surface of the brain. Fissure is an indentation to demarcate one part to the other part of the brain. The third is auditory cortex. Auditory cortex is a part of the temporal lobe to process auditory information. It's located next to the Sylvian fissure. Auditory cortex has function to responsible for receiving and identifying auditory signals and converting them into a form that can be interpreted by other area of the brain. The fourth is visual cortex. Visual cortex is part of the brain which processes visual information. It's located in the lower back of each hemisphere, that is in occipital lobe. The visual cortex has function to receive and interpret visual stimuli and is thought to be the storage site for pictorial images. Then the fifth is motor cortex. Motor cortex is the region of cerebral cortex involved in planning, control, and execution of movement. It's found in the upper middle of each hemisphere, perpendicular to the Sylvian fissure. Motor cortex has function to responsible for sending signal to your muscle, including those of your face, jaw, and tongue to make them move. The last is language center. Language center is the areas of the brain which serve a particular function for speech processing and production. It's located at the base of the motor cortex. Language center has function to responsible for organizing the articulatory pattern of language and directing the motor cortex when we want to talk.
Okay, that's all from the first group. In the next, we apologize and don't forget to feel and
every melody is timeless, and now your song is on repeat, and I'm dancing on to your heartbeat. And when you're gone, I feel incomplete. So if you want the truth, I just wanna